Good evening from Bangkok. Welcome to the 10th webinar organized by AIGS. So this is our 10th webinar already. It's kind of a meaningful number. So that's why today I'm wearing red color. So it's really important and meaningful because I realized our webinar is like a gathering platform for the gemologists from all around the world. So it's really interesting and meaningful for everyone. So I don't talk too much tonight. Now I'll give the floor directly to AIGS Chairman, Mr. Kennedy Ho, and he will give a brief introduction to Peter again. So welcome, Mr. Kennedy.
Welcome back to AIGS Gem Tips. Like Michelle said, this is our 10th webinar. You know, 10 has a lot of meanings. Usually it's 1 to 10. 10 means the maximum points. In Bangkok, our lockdown situation has been relaxed, and finally restaurants have started reopening. I have not been to a restaurant since the end of March, so that would be a good change. Today's speaker is Dr. Peter Lyckberg. Okay? He is the scientific collaborator of the Museum of National History in Luxembourg, Sweden. He's also a nuclear inspector for the European Commission. But the main point is today, Peter is an expert on today's topic. He has traveled all over the world, visiting all the Gem Pegmatite fields, and he knows a lot. So I call him an expert. He's also a well-known author, okay? And he's a highly demanded international speaker. So I would like to welcome Peter. I'm so glad you made it. I was getting a little bit worried. Everybody was waiting for you, okay? So let's welcome Dr. Peter Lyckberg, and everybody in the meantime, stay safe and Sawadee Krap.
So thank you very much, AIGS, for inviting me to give this talk about Gem Pegmatites, Earth Treasure Chest. Why I call it that is because, in fact, Gem pegmatites from granitic or similar rocks contain many of the world's precious stones, gemstones. And the only one that really doesn't occur is, or the two I should say, is diamonds and rubies. But we will have a look. I will first talk about some different type and show you with photographs what pegmatites looks like, what it is, the structure of them, and then we will go to some different places on the planet. I will also show you where some of the main pegmatite areas are located. And we will just, here is a photo from Karakoram Mountains of Pakistan, my initial, which is a beautiful area with very high quality mineral specimens of topaz and aquamarine, and of course some broken crystals they would cut from there. So we will start in my native west coast of Sweden. Here there are very nice exposures in the cliffs where I grew up as a small child, and I couldn't help not to be interested in this. And you see on the left side, the granite has a pegmatite vein that's splitting. So pegmatite, granitic pegmatite, is the same as granite in composition, quartz, feldspar, and mica. It is just that the crystals had a chance in these crevices to grow to larger crystals. And on the right side, you see a pegmatite vein, 1/2 meter to a little bit more. And here is a cavity with grass. So you see the crystals in the granite itself is a few millimeters to maybe a centimeter. And the pegmatites, they can run up to several meters. So what happened is you can have a mountain chain in orogeny, like Himalayas were formed when Indian plate collided with Asian plate. And you have a mountain building up, and you have big sections of molten rock, magma. So we classify different rocks. I call them now granitic rocks or granite. But in fact, if you look, one granite with a little more calcium is called tonalite, and another one granodiorite. But it's the same igneous rock. It's just little. In fact, when they crystallize, a huge magma, you can imagine 50 kilometers perhaps, or tens of kilometers, a big magma chamber. When they start to crystallize from all is molten, then you can have a segregation vertically. But the contents of water in normal rock is 2-3%. And it means when crystallization has started and has gone far, the percentage of water will become higher, and also those elements, the smallest elements, lithium, beryllium, and so on, and larger cesium, rubidium, and rare earth elements, even sometimes uranium, thorium, they will be enriched in these last solutions, and they will penetrate, they will fracture because it's very high pressure, they will fracture and penetrate through cracks. And that's exactly what you see on the photographs here. Now, if you have hundreds of different pegmatite fields, some of them may yield gemstones. And what you find on the surface today depends on the erosion. So sometimes the pegmatites are gone, already eroded away, and you will find them in alluvial or alluvial in the rivers or former stream beds. Or you will have to mine further down to find the best pegmatites. All depends on the level of erosion on that area. So here is just, you can see a granite, and running across is a little pegmatitic vein. Down to the left, you see a larger feldspar crystal in a granite. Now, here is a pegmatite vein. They can either crystallize within the mother granite, or they can penetrate through the surrounding rocks, and their shape will depend on the tectonics of the area, how deep, what the confining pressure is, and within the granite, you may have veins, sheet-like ore bodies, or like a loaf of bread could be the shape, or they could be like a football or elongated vertically as well. It depends on the crystallization and the chemical composition, how much flux minerals are in. So here is just one of the books on pegmatology by my friends and colleagues, William Skip Simmons here and colleagues. So you can see, as I mentioned, the incompatible elements that are enriched, and the volatile enrichment also. So these are enriched in the last solutions and will create many rare minerals. And for many of the gemstones, you need, as you know, some rare elements to form them as well. So here to the left, normal granite, it could be whitish, grayish. On the right side is reddish, but on the right side you see a very good structured pegmatite vein. That one does not have any gemstones. Here you can see that they were formed deep. The wall rock was plastic, it's rounded, it's like almost like a dough to the left side, Högsbo pegmatite in Sweden, Göteborg. Now I will show you what igneous intrusion, such granite intrusion, look like in a rather flatter area. Here is from Namibia. Down to the right, you see Irongo Mountains, you see Brandberg, and these are both granite intrusions. They both have pegmatite, especially Irongo, where there's a lot of aquamarine, some topaz also. But you can really see on Google Earth these round intrusion balls coming up, and they rise to 2,500 meters, so 1,500 meters above the plain. Now we go to Namibia. On the left side, this is near Spitzkopje, which was just a small mountain west of Irongo. And you can see the vertical fissures here filled with pegmatites, and you can even see where there are pockets. Here's a bigger pegmatite in the middle up, and below is Irongo Mountains. You see a little mountain chain, a rendered plane, just to look at the different structures and locate pegmatites. And to the right bottom, you see one pegmatite vein running up the mountain and Spitzkopje. Here is a chimney. I call them chimneys because internal in the granite, they can be really like chimney-like. The one to the left was 23 meters deep. The top had white barrels, and 10 meters down it started with aquamarines. Now, pegmatites can also form from the rocks being partially melted, or I could say, or in place. And this is from Iveland, Evje. You can see the beautiful structure here in the road cut. Now, what time periods? The Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. And to the very right, you can see the Himalayas. The pegmatites there are I write in a consequent image here 8 to 24 million years old, but in fact they're still forming. So some they are forming but at depth, so we don't have them exposed. So I think that we could even come down to 1-2 million years old exposed ones if we age check, because erosion goes fast. You see the pegmatite fields of Brazil, around 500 million years old, Scandinavia. Then Volhyn in Ukraine, which we will look at, is 1.7 billion years old. The very left, South Africa, will end its more metasomatosis. When I speak about igneous intrusion, you will have pegmatites, but you will also have a lot of reaction zones. The heat from this huge magma chamber, it will produce heat that heating the water. You will have metasomatic deposit. You will also have contact metamorphic deposits. So the granite coming in contact with a limestone, for instance, will make a skarn. Depending on the granite comes up, and then the pegmatites go through limestone, they will catch some calcium, and you will have some pegmatites like places in Madagascar you have with very interesting mineralizations. Here are some of the main pegmatites in Eurasia and Africa showing. I've just selected a few of them, and some of you will notice some unusual places I marked also. And North and South America, and we will see a few of those places. I would need a full day to present them all. Here's from Ukraine, a geological map showing pegmatites. So just the different colors is just different levels of the mine, 50, 100, 150 meter level. But you can see they look like a football almost. And the right one up here that produced 2.5 ton heliodors, it's the largest known chamber pocket that I know of on planet Earth. It's 85 meter approximately in diameter. And here are some of the beautiful gem crystals. Here you have tourmalines and beryls of various colors. And topaz there was also. Now all geologists, mineralogists, we are used to label all specimen. It doesn't matter if it's just a piece of granite, but it needs a location exactly where it came from. Therefore, it's a bit curious that gemologists try to look at the cut stone and try to figure out where it came from. I think this information usually should be supplied in all the chain, just with a piece of little label, paper label, very, very easy. And here is a granite intrusion in the middle of Indian Ocean, one could say, north of Madagascar, Seychelles Islands. So we will look in a bit of a map of this area. Here is a huge pegmatite to the left, Högsberg Göteborg, and the upper right is a beryl frozen there. Down to the right is a clear aquamarine, and of course this is what we would like to see. Here is metamorphic rocks with many pegmatites. All the white bands in the mountains are pegmatites here, and to the left you could see in a road cut. Here is a detail of a large, not clear beryl. In such pegmatites, you can find gemi-clear sections in those big beryls. Now, pegmatites are very beautiful to study sometimes. Here is where you see the bigger crystals of lepidolite and ligonite. There's some petalite there. I think there's some polysite also here. So rare lithium cesium enrichment. Now, this is from Mount Mica in Maine, and it's a huge pegmatite, many, many meters thick. But still, when you look at all the mine tunnels, it's just maybe less than 1% or rather per mil that is highly enriched, even of such a famous pegmatite that was started to be mined, or it was found 200 years ago. Here is from Norway, huge amazonite crystals in Turdal. So you can even have rare earth element pegmatites or lithium pegmatites. The first ones were discovered in Sweden. We'll go back to that one. So rare earth elements, they started mining in Ytterby in 1756 in Sweden, and rare earths were named after Ytterby, yttrium, ytterbium, terbium, erbium, scandium, holmium, lanthanum, and so on. And at Ute, south of Stockholm, was the first lithium pegmatite that was found over 200 years ago. So here is an example of other giant crystals. You see how big crystals can be. This spodumene in the Etamine Black Hills, 11 meter long. I've been there, even on the dumps nowadays, you can find it looks like big sections of telephone poles of this, they're grayish tan color spodumene. Not any gem quality kunzite here though, because this pegmatite formed probably a bit deeper. And there are some pockets with secondary interesting phosphate minerals. Here is pegmatite from Norway. What you can see There's some white albite, there's some yellowish, oranges, beryls. Up to the right, there's amazonite. To the right of them is a white topaz. There are sometimes pockets in those, but they were formed rather deep. To the left is a pegmatite in Portugal with huge beryl crystals, and to the right from Pakistan. So of course, from gemological viewpoint, you try, there could be gem sections in the left one, but in the right one, this is a beautiful specimen. And in this pocket, probably we found many loose broken bits and pieces of aquamarine that would serve for gem rough. Now, in fact, this year, right now, I'm celebrating 50 years of studying Neolithic gem pegmatites. And this was a photo from the very first cavity I found 50 years ago when I was 8 years old. The picture on the right is taken 46 years ago. And the left is 10 years ago, something. Now, I started studying Neolithic pegmatites in Scandinavia and then further out in the world. And this is how it looks like when you find under the tree roads a pocket. And here are my children participating in digging a pocket where only quartz crystals, but very interesting study from the Genesis. We will now go to the left here in Finland on the border to Russia, Karelia. We'll go to the Ural Mountains, briefly to Malchansk Mountains here. And then we'll go to Volodsk, Ukraine. So here is in Finland. This pocket was a very late stage. In fact, it was not in the crystallization of the pegmatite, of the general pegmatite. This pocket was located near the edge to the granite, which is not normal. And the other pockets are under the quartz core. They can be the border of the quartz core also. But here I found a very, very thin fissure. And this was clearly hydrothermal, no big quartz crystals, just a solid pocket, but with big barrels, as you see here. And a few of them were of gem quality, like here. This is 1.2 kilo, and a few cut stones. The deep yellow were found, maybe a bit higher iron content and higher radiation within the biotite, which was lining the pocket. Now we go to the Ural Mountains. Very classic deposit found in 1668. Is near Mursinka, and in the best pegmatite fields north of Mursinka at Alabashka. And here, the yellow lines, I marked each individual pegmatite. They're 300 million years old. To the right, you see the famous Mursinka Siberian amethyst hydrothermal veins. They're about 212 million years old. I was the first visitor to these mines in 1992 since Russian Revolution, and I've been dreaming to go there since I was a small child. Here you see a geological map. The pink here to the right is the granite, and many of the amethyst veins are located in the granite. Now the granite is dipping down under those other rocks to the left, Alabashka, all the pegmatite fields going northwest, southeast, steeply dipping. Most of them, there are just two, in fact, are not steeply dipping, and they have hundreds of cavities each, of which some will yield beautiful heliodor and topaz. So this is my second trip there, 93. Was very, very exciting time, but very dangerous to be in the Urals at this time. And the left here is on 30-meter level in the Kasyonitsa mine. And here is a cross-section. From drill cores, only looking at the structure of the pegmatite, you could tell which zones would be good for mining. And therefore, the mining company decided not to go below 30 meter. I would probably have gone down to 35 meter with a shaft because there were still rich mineralizations. And of the whole vein, there was a 50-meter section out of 150 meter. That would be good for pockets. And you can see here, yellow are marked with, that's for heliodor, and blue are for topaz, and some have both beryl and topaz. Here is mining one pocket. And this is what a pocket looked like, feldspar mica crystals, and sometimes you can find the gem crystals like these. Beautiful heliodor aquamarine. This aquamarine that I'm holding in my hand, it was in fact color changing. So depending on the light, green and going to strong blue in daylight. Here are some of the best crystals they found in this area. Of course, such beautiful crystals must be preserved, and all the broken bits and pieces we do cut and put in jewelry. Here are specimens from the same area, Alabashka. And here is a variety of the colors of beryls, all from Russia, except for one here from Ukraine that we will visit now. And they're also beautiful rubellite, very, very famous Siberite, which they call them the red rubellite from Siberia, and etched topaz. Here are some cut stones and pieces of jewelry from the Ural Mountains. And a beautiful topaz which made the Mursinka Alabashka area world famous for the, at that time, most beautiful topaz in the world. And I would say the same about the heliodor. Here is a dream depiction by Wendell Wilson to the left, a dream pocket of topaz from Alabashka. And on the right, you can see the minerals in the pocket, different zonations. You can see garnets just to the left of me, just lining around the pocket. And here is heliodor from Golodnaya mine, very, very high quality. The pegmatites are 300 million years old, which means that they do have real intense golden color. This would never be the case in young pegmatites. There you will only find aquamarines. This is my interpretation of geology. And it's caused by radiation, very likely. Of course, it's the iron color, but it's the valence of the iron. To the left here, see some of the finest gems that I have been able to locate and photograph from Russia. And the crystal to the right was found in the 1700s, probably arrived to Germany 1774 with a Russian who studied in Germany. And as I mentioned, they're hydrothermal quartz veins, connected or not connected to the pegmatites. I mean, in geologically connected, not the same time always. But there are amethyst also in some of the pegmatites. And here is a big crystal to the right, amethyst found 1820. To the left, a citrine cut by my wife, Nadja. It was her fourth stone, and it was the first stone where she managed to get perfect polish, which is in fact very rare. It's very hard to get perfect polish in a stone. Not for some like Viktor Tuslikov will see later, but for most cutters, they never do that or achieve that. And here is a huge quartz crystal, 3.2 kilos from the Urals. The largest quartz crystal that we've found in hydrothermal veins are about 10 tons, but usually they're a few hundred kilos. In pegmatites in Kazakhstan, there was in 1958, one such crystal weighing 70 tons. And it took me 20 years to locate a photo where there's a dozen people walking on this crystal. And now, in the contact of the same, we watched the geological map of Mursinka Alabashka on the east side of this granite intrusion, the Mursinka Adui granitic intrusion. You have the emerald deposits and alexandrite deposits of the Urals. Now, this is, as I mentioned, metasomatic. So the granite gave the beryllium that you can causes chrysoberyl and beryl as emerald here, and the surrounding rock had the chromium to color them emerald green and give them the color change in alexandrite. Now, we don't call it pegmatite, but in fact there are pegmatites there. Some were mined for molybdenite, some were mined for tantalum niobium, and there are also pegmatites carrying emeralds there. But most of the emeralds and chrysoberyl are in the glimmerites, the mica-rich rocks. Sometimes we call them mica schist, but they're very complex. Sometimes it's talc, sometimes actinolite. And here's a beautiful specimen, very old. What is interesting, you can see a couple of the crystals have been broken during the process of crystallization, so they're in segments. And the cut stone came from the backside of this specimen, 8.19 carats. And here's my wife on her 30th birthday. Of course, she's Russian, so I gave her a Russian emerald. Here is a first known imperial topaz from Russia, was found 1850 in, it says Sanarka, but in fact it's Kamenka River by Sanarka, 37 carats flawless, beautiful imperial color. Most of the recovered stones there are pinkish to even purple. But there were a few stones like this, and one collector at the time had 2,000 crystals. Now we go to the border to China, Malkhansk Mountains, which the last 10 years have produced incredibly beautiful rubellites, reminding of the Jonas mine in Brazil. Here's Marcus Bodel's specimen and Malte Sicking, beautiful photograph. I hereby also thank all photographers and collectors and dealers who contributed with images to my talk. And I apologize if I forgot anyone. Here in 1985, I and one Russian geologist, we discovered tiny pockets at the apex of the mountain Malkhansk. And there was a huge pocket with big doubly terminated tourmalines, and the tiny pockets yielded those. Now it was a new mineral species, rosmanites, but I gave to a lab, but it wasn't analyzed until later. In 1998, it was described. Now, what is special about those, that every spot in those, in one cut stone we analyzed, was rosmanite. So it was pure rosmanite, the finest in the world. Now we go to Ukraine. Now here, it is no mountain chain building like the Himalayas or the Urals, no collision zone where mountains were built. In Finland, I forgot to tell, you could say it was a stretching of the earth crust. If you take a pancake and pull on the edges, the middle will become thinner and you can have magmatic intrusions coming, as in Finland. So on the right side here, you see Korostin Pluton. It's tens of kilometers, I think about 50 kilometers diameter, along the edges of such a Pluton, or in the roof zone, you can have interesting pegmatites. Now those are within the granite, so they are really, really shaped like a football or melon, sometimes more tube vertical. If there's a lot of topaz, they have the shape. And on the left side, you can see all the dots, and each one is a pegmatite, which was mined 1,900 pegmatites there, 1931 till now. And it was mined for piezo quartz. Now 10% had topaz of these pegmatites and 2% had beryl. They first found big quartz crystals in the soil. It's a very flat area. There were no mountain, completely flat. So in the top soil, they found big quartzes they thought the Ice Age brought from Scandinavia. And here are some of the big quartz crystals to the left and the piezo quartz to the right, which they mined. Now here is, as I say, a big bubble. When that crystallizes in the granite, you will have contraction fissures around. So when you walk in a mine tunnel, you see this. It's showing this is the shell of a huge football, and you have different zones in a pegmatite. You have fine crystallized in the contact with this granite. It's just gradually going to the pegmatite. Or if it intruded as a vein, you will have a sharp contact or not so sharp contact, depending on the depth and temperature of the side rock also. And here you can imagine you have to do a tunnel into and find the pocket inside. Pocket could be as little as a few percent, up to 50% of the diameter of the pegmatite. So here is from inside one giant pocket. Above you see the quartz core. The quartz crystallizes very late and in the roof section of the pegmatite. So below this quartz core is the pocket. There crystallized huge quartz crystals. Now much of the quartz was formed very late stage when the already formed cavity solutions dissolved the quartz below the cavity, a leach zone, and recrystallized in the roof to form larger quartz crystals. Here is inside one of those pockets, and here is a 23-meter deep pocket. So topaz were found here 6 meters below where the tunnel came in. Here are some big quartz crystals that had fallen from the ceiling. And left side is a huge pocket. It's just a corner of this 85-meter pocket. And a heliodor on the right, they were found 2.5 tons there. Here is the smoky quartz left in the pocket, 1973. Now, if you see my face, it's very red and swollen. It's because it's so low oxygen count because there was no ventilation. So as working there is like at 5,000 meter altitude. In the same pocket, I just gathered those small beryl crystals, heliodors, from the mining company had been left in the old days since mining. Because they were mining quartz, but still they took care of 260 kilo beryl in this pocket, besides many tons of quartz. Now here I show you when we just started to dig one small tube-like pocket, which is very unusual in this deposit. But it was a 7-meter long tube, as narrow you could barely crawl through some sections. And here you have to be very careful. In the middle left, you see a almost vertical smoky quartz crystal. To the right, a small smoky quartz tip here. When you start mining, you take everything loose with your fingers, and you cannot put a chisel and destroy where the crystals. You try to start along the edges. If you put it right above the smoky quartz crystal here to start to mine, we'll see what happens. It was right up here. The smoky quartz was right in front of this topaz. This topaz is 29 kilo. So when you mine this, the money for finding such things should pay the miners for many months of salary. So if you damage the crystal, of course, it still has the cutting value, but as a crystal is more valuable than gem rough usually. So this is the crystal on the right side, 29 kilo, very heavy. It's very high density, 3.5 and approximate topaz, and the smoky quartz on the left from the same pocket. Here is a cut stone cut from a small piece of topaz from from Ukraine by Viktor Tuslakov. Just unbelievably beautiful cut, I must say, that Viktor designed and cut. And I asked him to leave the inclusions so you can see the inclusions, the gas fluid inclusions in the topaz. And he named it Mystery of the Universe. Here is in the pocket where I was resting on the smoky quartz before, there was a continuation, several meters, thin vein leading to a new pocket that had not been discovered during mining, with huge smoky quartz to 4,000 kilo. There was a heliodor right next to the right one here of a kilo. And the geologist on the right side here of the photo, he named this Peter's Dream Pocket after me. And why? Because I've been dreaming of finding a pocket where we could find the gem crystals in situ. Barrels typically crystallize at the bottom in this type of pegmatites. Now, because of the leach zone, there are not any matrix left, so the barrels are left laying loose in altered feldspar that is now clay. So you will almost never see barrels in matrix from Ukraine. They will be in clay matrix typically. I only know of one real specimen in matrix. So here we found in 2013 this corner of a giant pocket. Behind us there are two dark entrances leading into the same, about a 5 meter long, 4 meter wide, 2.5, 3 meter, 3 meter tall section full of topaz. And here is a big plate, and you can see the left on the wall here. It's topaz crystals everywhere. So, and now it's dirty, but it's white clevelandite with beautiful bicolored blue and champagne colored topaz crystals. Here is the largest one, 325 kilo. It's the largest bicolored topaz in the world. Beautiful heliodor and a cut stone to the right. And here is a clean specimen. Really, really beautiful. Now, in two sections of this whole pegmatite field with 1,900 pegmatites, there has been found bicolored topaz of this quality. This is a 2 kilo sample with fluorite inclusions. And it's all natural colors, not been treated anyway. Of course, the champagne or deep orange color, it's very deep color because the pegmatites are 1.7 billion years old. So if you have a pegmatite, which is young, the champagne color will never be deep. And it does fade upon exposure to daylight. Here we have beautiful heliodor. To the left, a very rare find of a huge heliodor which has retained its original shape and not been etched. The right one is heavily etched one, 3.4 kilo almost. Beautiful green barrel. And here is the chief of security in this mine in Ukraine. Now you see he's holding a beautiful smoky quartz crystal from an open pit. So the granite is weathered to clay between 10 and 40 meters. And there when you find the pocket is just the quartz and barrels that may be left. Here is a big topaz, 30 kilo. Here's a cut stone, 9,000 carats with beautiful color. So those stones you should protect. When you wear it in jewelry, you should have it in the evening, of course, not in broad daylight, because then after a few days, maybe fading to a very light color. Here are barrels, heliodor, aquamarine, and 2 topaz. Huge topaz. Interesting is the top right, natural blue topaz is in fact quite rare. Fantastic color. All natural, blue color does not fade at all. It's stable. It seems like it may intensify with the exposure rather, that the blue color becomes stronger with the exposure. And I've seen a couple of specimens in old European museums that have been exposed in daylight for 200 years. It seems like they're catching up the color. Of course, I didn't see them the original color, but just judging from a lot of specimens I've seen, this is my interpretation. To the left, you see the beautiful blue bands in the champagne color. Absolutely fantastic. And it's unique to Ukraine, I would say. It's only in Finland where we found some topaz. The pegmatites in Finland are the same age, so there it's possible to find this deep orange color. In Colorado, it's about 1 billion years old, so it's not quite as deeply colored. And this bicolored topaz, I think, is fantastic. It's a real collector's stones, and you can use it in jewelry. Now, here's from inside the giant pocket with heliodors. And here is one in matrix, in situ. Preferably one should remove this crystal with a matrix, which is extremely rare. And here it's taken out. You see the pocket, the hole it came out from in the albite to the right. Now, if we look at this, this is all natural colors, topaz and beryl, from one mine, many different pegmatites in Ukraine. Now, such finds are far in between, and the largest you can see 2,500 carat beryl up to the right. Now we'll go to Hindu Kush, Karakora, and Himalaya gem belt that started 45 million years ago, but the pegmatites have been age dated to 24 million to 8 million years, and some are probably 1-2 million years, some are still forming. So Indian plate drifted north. Why it drifted? Because there was magma coming up in between Africa and India, pushing India north, colliding with the Asian continent. To the right where the Nanga Parbat, Haramosh Mountain, that is just in fact the very top of the Indian plate that's been uplifted to 8,000 meters. We will start in Afghanistan, and to the left you can see many pegmatites near Paprok. It's a famous mine. I wrote it's an issue of mineralogical record on Gem Pegmatites of Afghanistan. So gemologists should also look for mineralogical journals. There are many, lapis, extra lapis, La Reine Minéraux, French one, and it doesn't really matter if you can read the language. You will learn the language and you can look at the images and learn a lot. Rivista Mineralogica Italiana. So here is northeastern Afghanistan, Nuristan. I marked some of the pegmatite districts on the map. Here are some of the colors of tourmaline. Afghanistan primarily famous for tourmaline. You can see on the left side here the little lighter vein pegmatite coming down here at Gamata. This was 1970s. They found those incredible indigolite. And cut by Viktor Tuslakov, 70 carat. Now we go to Paprok, very high altitude, 4,600 to almost 5,000 meter mines. This is in July 2010. And here is the first article I wrote in Mineralienwelt, German magazine on Paprok. Here my son helped me to make a cross section. This is from Rosovsky originally, but what you can see is the different types of pegmatites. So when you go into a pegmatite field, in Afghanistan, there are pegmatite up to 30 kilometer long. They can vary. You can have pegmatoids in granite. You can have veins, which is just a couple of meters, a few decimeter wide to many meters wide, to 50, 100 meter wide and thick pegmatites. And in some of the bigger, they're just sections that we might have gem quality minerals. Albite with berylonite, manganotantalite, red, can be cut, broken bits and pieces also. Petalite, pollucite, so many rare minerals that can be cut to collector stones as well. This beautiful specimen from Collector's Edge Minerals in Colorado. Same company has this. The first piece 20 centimeter, this is 25, 30 centimeter. Beautiful rubellite. And indigolite, blue color. Here is a fantastic specimen, probably the best matrix specimen from Afghanistan. And rare minerals like lithium, phosphate, vitaniemite, 17 centimeters. There's only one that was ever taken care of from Paprok like this. Hamburgite, also very rare. So many beryllium, lithium minerals here. Here's a giant Maui pegmatite. And you can see the big pockets. They produced up to 2 tons of kunzite here. And we'll have a look. Inside the Maui pegmatite, beautiful indigolite. Unfortunately, there was a misprint in Andrade in 1801 when he visited Sweden, and he saw indigo blue tourmaline from Uto Island, which in Sweden is called indigolite, and in all other languages except for English, it was a misprint in 1801. So 219 years later, English still call it indicolite, which is not correct. It's indigo blue tourmaline. Here's a view into an untouched pocket in Maui. Ikram Mohammed made this picture for me. I had many people helping me because Afghanistan is not a safe place to go to. So what do you see in the pocket? You can see quartz crystals in the upper, but usually you have to be very careful because you don't know which of these rocks will have some beautiful gem crystals on. So very, very careful removing so you don't make damages to the crystals. And here on the right side, a kunzite twin crystal from Maui. Unbelievable. The nicest one I've ever seen. And to the left from Weigall, kunzite morganite. Weigall doesn't produce often, but sometimes fantastic pieces. Here is from Maui, beautiful morganite on clevelandite. And of course, the value of such a piece is that it's on mother rock. The broken morganites, the value is 10% of on the matrix. And if the crystal is broken by itself, it's even less. And that's what you use for cutting gemstones. So such specimen I'm showing here should of course be preserved. These are the rare, unique pieces, which are really extremely rare, I would say. And here is a beautiful kunzite cut by Viktor Tuslakov. And kunzite is trichroic, so it will have different colors depending on which axis you're looking at the crystal. Purple, green, reddish, purple, blue. Beryllinite, rare mineral from pulp rock. And here are miners sleeping in a kunzite mine. Now you see what they shovel in the cart there is, even among the spodumene, usually it's just a few percent that is gem quality. Sometimes a rare pocket will produce huge percentage of gem quality. In general, when you mine gemstones, 1 to 2% of whatever it is, beryl or kunzite or amethyst, will be gem quality. Here is this crystal Viktor Tuslakov has cut, and you see the different colors depending on angle, or axis I should say. And the purple Finnish cut stone, which is the largest kunzite in the world. Now we go to Pakistan. So the Hindu Kush goes into Karakoram mountains and then into the Himalayas. This is from Karakoram. That is really the highest mountain range in the world. It has, Himalayas has one peak higher, Mount Everest, but here there are many peaks over 8,000 meters. Incredibly beautiful. In the middle is Mount Haramosh, where we're going to see some mines. And this is just a general structure of the chain. You can see all the snow. So in fact, the largest glacier outside the polar areas is in Pakistan. Very high mountains means high climbing to sometimes 5,000 meters. Here's Haramosh Peak. I went there many years ago. And I went up to, on the very right side, up to the pinnacles here, where I went. And there are 50 mines on this side, 50 mines on the back side, 50 mines on the back side of the next ridge. Local miners, very difficult condition. Usually they live from what they grow and animals. They get egg and sometimes they eat chicken. Normally they're vegetarians. Here's a miner's family in Haramosh Mountains. We're living in Stone Age houses really when I was there the first time. Here is view towards Rakaposh, and this is from up the ridge where the mines are, from 4,500 meters and up. The peak near west of Haramosh is 5,500 meters. Here is with my brother Wasim, who is a miner there. Asim, I just spoke to him the other day. Here is Wasim. We're inside the aquamarine pegmatite. And sleeping under the stars at night, 5,000 meters, 4,600 meters is fantastic. I highly recommend. There are also snow leopards in this area, and there are these beautiful topaz and aquamarines, of course, they find. Here we see the peaks behind me. This is the southwest-south face, so there is no snow. Just on the back side it's snow, and the ground is almost frozen at night. Here is a big group. This one now is from Shigar, and we will go over to Shigar, where also this specimen, Marcus Bodel's specimen collection, comes from. Such specimens do not exist from Brazil on matrix with beautiful aquamarines. Brazil pegmatites are usually weathered down. There are a few matrix pieces from Brazil, but Pakistan has produced the finest matrix aquamarine specimens in the world. And here is a recent pocket found last year, just a little over a year ago. And this is a rare case where they took care, and experts went, or one expert went down to advise how to remove this beautiful plate. And this is the biggest fine plate of aquamarine ever discovered. And I will show you where it comes from in just a bit. Also emerald. Sometimes the rock contains chromium vanadium enough surrounding the pegmatite to make the barrels in the pegmatite emerald colored. And here is from a pocket, bicolored. There are also rare gems in the pegmatites in this area. The beryllinite, for instance. Here is a garnet in aquamarine, beautiful garnet. Beautiful specimen, triplite of gem quality, very rare stone. And we go to Staknala, which is between, well, it's in the Haramosh Mountains on the way to Skardu and Shigar Valley. Here are small specimens. This is not for gem cutting. Those small crystals are usually 4 or 5 centimeters to 10, sometimes 15 centimeters, should be preserved as they are. They're nature's pieces of art, really. And you will not get much of cutting. Of course, some have been cut, some broken crystals, but usually they're recovered beautiful specimens here. With morganite, with rare hamburgite, with topaz, with fluorite. Just an unbelievable, beautiful, thin pegmatite with thousands of beautiful specimens. Now we go north of Skardu to the Shigar Valley. I marked some of the main mines. On the top, you see up by the glacier, it was like my lower arm, that shape, huge aquamarine, a miner found a long time ago just by the glacier, and he thought it was a piece of ice. Now, when I was there the first time, I saw this cliff with the veins, and they had not mined much at all here, just tiny bit. There were a couple of small tunnels, and they walked 2,000 meters higher and mined 3 summer months. And I suggested, why don't you mine these veins? Usually thin veins that are well crystallized, they may have numerous pockets, and you may find big quantity. And the good thing, they could mine year round here. So here is the cliff after some years after I suggested they should mine there. So hundreds of tunnels, as you can see here. And they also produce gravel. They haven't taken, but of course they should take the gravel they produce for road construction in the area, instead of having a big quarry for that. So here are the mines, and you can see the veins. Here is a horizontal or sub-horizontal vein, and also a vertical one above my head. The beautiful specimens from here, other specimens from this area, one you saw, and the one to the right is fantastic for cutting. It's an ugly big crystal. Well, ugly, I shouldn't say it's ugly, but it's not really well formed, but for cutting, fantastic, almost emerald green. Here is garnet specimen. Fantastic photographs by Andrea Schmidt showing the crystallization of the edges. Just lovely. Mother Nature's treasures. Here is a spiral inclusion. It's one of them, but it's reflected in the face on the left. And here is from this incredible pocket again. Sorry, I double showing it. Okay, now we're going to the last couple of places. We're going to California. So California was a bit over 100 years ago. Well, in fact, it was in the late 1800s, the first mining took place up in Riverside and San Diego County. Here's the Ocean View Pala Chief mine. And here's an old picture mining the Pala Chief. And those incredible rubellites, this color comes from the Pala Chief and from the Stewart mine. These are in the museum in Paris. It was a gift donated by JP Morgan. And here is lepidolite. The Stewart mine is a long, very thick vein. It bulges to 45-50 meters. Now, when you have that, you have also, when you have such big one, you have internal structures, which we also call chimneys. The other chimney in Namibia, it was a chimney of pegmatite within the granite. Here's an internal chimney where you find beautiful rubellite tourmaline. And here is the adjacent, on the next hill, Ocean View mine. You can see the pegmatite structure by my son there. You see the black shoal, you can see lepidolite, micas. It's suggesting we're approaching possible pocket zones. And on the right side, you see a big feldspar. It's a morganite sitting on the feldspar, not washed off yet. And there were 2 morganites on the other side. My son collected this specimen. And here is the owner of the mine, Jeff Swanger, with Dr. Peter Bancroft, admiring a couple of the kunzites they found. And this is fantastic. I was in this area in 1987 the first time, and everybody said, oh, this is finished, there's nothing left. And I said, well, look on the mountains. There are 3 mountains. There are hundreds of pegmatites, and you mined a few percent. Of course, some of the best zones were mined to start with. But there's plenty left, and Jeff Swanger is one of those gentlemen who has shown that it's true. They have found fantastic things, beautiful tourmalines. Here is Blue Shepherd at the Stewart mine digging a pocket with his lady. Beautiful, beautiful tourmalines here. You see green, but the pink there is to die for. Now we go to the Himalayan mine. Himalayan mine is I would say, very easy to mine dike because it's very narrow, 1 meter thick, 1.5 meters when it's swollen. It's 1 kilometer long. In the south end, It's called going over to San Diego mining properties, so the two mines, I should say. And here is the vein in situ. It's steeply dipping. You can see the black shale growing from the top. So it's not symmetrical, it's asymmetrical. When you come to a pocket, you have albite at the bottom. Here is the royal pocket with some lepidolite around, this 3-meter long pocket, where was found what I call the royal family, incredible tourmalines. Here is from the royal pocket, most of the pieces, and here is a close-up. The piece in the middle, the best one, is from a previous pocket, the Himalaya Princess pocket, and the specimen named the Himalaya Princess. Now, when you find some of those tourmalines, rarely they're gem bicolored pencil crystals to the left. You don't cut the best crystals, but broken bits and pieces, you can cut bicolored stones. And to the right, my wife designed some jewelry. And now you saw also the pocket. You saw the vein, you saw the pocket, you see the crystals, you see the finished cut stones. And this is something that not all gemologists get to see. If you work in a jewelry store and gemological lab, but it's very important to get out to go to some mines, and there are some possibilities to visit if you're friendly with the mine owners. Here is from the Himalaya mine. You can see the spectrum of color. Now the left piece, if you put it in daylight, it's intense pink and green. So it's a bit deceiving the photo because it depends on what light you have. Here's the Himalaya Princess, and here is Mount Mica in Maine. It's a big vein, and you can see big shoals. Here is a pocket. We mined this in winter 2004, big quartzes. Here's what the pocket untouched looked like. This was a 6.5 meter pocket with rubellite to 54 centimeter. Beautiful tourmalines, and from the right, there was a loose piece. They cut a beautiful cut stone. Now we go to Brazil. Of course, I should have shown much more from Brazil, but time is running out. But what you can see, this is the top of a granite intrusion. These inselbergs sticking up in Namibia, in Brazil. Here you have 8,000 to 9,000 years of weathering, which means in Brazil, many of the pegmatites have been weathered, and you find weathered pegmatites, or you find in the alluvial, in the soil, what was once granite, you find kaolin clay, or you find in the rivers that has enriched some placers or some former riverbeds that have beautiful rounded topaz and beryl. Here's aquamarine mine in 2007. Here's inside the pocket, and I found some really nice, big, beautiful aquamarine. And to the right here, you see an incredible find of giant. The left piece is a rare that was found in 1910 and preserved because it was so beautiful, pristine crystal. And here is a big smoky quartz, just fantastic. Here is a Jonas mine, and I must mention the Jonas mine. In 1978, they found probably the greatest pocket, the real treasure chest or chamber of a pegmatite. Ailton Barbosa was the garimpeiro who found it. Here he is with 2 of the tourmaline specimens. The left crystal is 107 centimeters. What was rare is this pocket was completely clean. Some are filled with ugly looking clays. You can't really see the beauty of the crystals. But here, the crystals were all clean, and the right crystal is about 15 centimeters in Bill Larson collection. And there's really gem quality here. Many, many gem pencils. I haven't mentioned, but when a pegmatite forms, usually there's a first mineralization. It could be tourmaline or topaz or beryl that's frozen in the pegmatite, not often gem qualities, small bits and pieces. Then within the pocket, you can have 1, 2, 3, even 4 generations of tourmaline or topaz within the pocket. First generation usually becomes bigger crystals. Second generation usually becomes gem pencils, highest quality. Third generation, usually small crystals on these former generations. And here is the biggest specimen, 325 kilo. Jonina was sitting in the ceiling, and it was saved by stacking car tires under it and putting cloth so they could get it loose, and then in the cloth with ropes carrying it out of the mine. Not an easy task. This is probably the best mineral specimens in the world, as that we know of at least. And you can see here the color is really intense red, deeper color than this photo is really showing. And it's several centimeters of faceting quality, just even the termination, 5 centimeter gem quality. But of course, such a piece, the value is tremendously much more as a specimen than anything for cutting. And here is rendering by Wendell Wilson. After speaking with the miner, Elton Barbosa, and seeing the specimen, Wendell with this beautiful drawing of the pocket. The most incredible gem pocket ever found on the planet. And here's Tarugo, beautiful 85 centimeter crystal, the last one that Jonas Lima, the financer of the mine, and the mine was named after him, he kept. And there are many more tourmaline mines. This is an incredible rubelite from Cruzeiro mine. Cruzeiro is a very old mine where they found Brazilian emerald, green tourmaline already in the 1600s. But Cruzeiro is famous for the red rubelite. Here, Pedernera mine, which produces an incredible specimen, which is just north of Cruzeiro. And here is a carving by Patrick Trier from Brazilian tourmaline. Beautiful, 4 colors. And of course, we have to mention Paraiba. So in 1988 in Paraiba state in northeastern Brazil, this is a famous pegmatite area for rare minerals. But they also then found suddenly beautifully colored tourmaline with intense electric blue, green, purple colors. And you can see in the same crystal many colors. And here is the not gemmy crystals from the Quintus mine that was discovered later. But here is a spectrum of colors, just fantastic. Picture by Brian Cook, incredibly intense. Now this is the color is due to copper that most of you know. In this there could be 3.5% copper. And it's really directly correlated with the copper content. And the spectrum of colors, reddish, purplish, blue, green. And the specimen to the left is the only great specimen we know of so far from the Quintus mine of Paraiba tourmaline. Doesn't have a value, so invaluable such a specimen. And here is more. And here you can see beautiful photo by the mine geologist Odolio Moura. He worked there for many, many years. He developed that mine, and you can see the multicolored tourmalines here. Now the last things we're going to mention from pegmatites is sapphires. Unfortunately, I did not visit Kashmir, but the left stone is from Pakistan side of Kashmir. Sometimes they're selling on auction stones, the Indian government here. There's a drawing from the place. But there are also sapphires left this recently discovered last year in British Columbia by Herb Hyder. And to the right is discovered since 200 years in Pegmatite 298 in the Ilmen Mountains in Urals. Sometimes those have small gemmy portions. So it's not important for gem producing right now, but of course, some of the most famous in the world from Kashmir came from pegmatite. The oldest that I was showing in the graph, if you remember, 2.95 million year old. It's like the Urals metasomatic emerald deposit from Gravelot in South Africa, and this from John Senkanka's collection, the specimen. It looks like this. And then Madagascar off the coast of Africa, we have some of the most incredible tourmalines in the world. Here is a slice, and you can see the color zonation. Beautiful morganite, and from the Wildfang collection, Fabian Wildfang, a beautiful rubelite to the right. Color zonation and color intensity in Madagascar is just unbelievable. And many years ago, they also found a new type of, in the beryl group, you could say it's a beryl with a lot of cesium in section, and this is what it looks like, the beautiful 5-6 centimeter pezzottaite, named after Federico Pezzotta, who is a geologist who studied the Madagascar pegmatites more than anyone else. I want to thank my friends in the field, and of course my family, because sometimes I have to travel far away for weeks and being gone for several weeks, and my wife and my small son as well. Now it's very important, please encourage the young. Here is my son, 1 year old, studying pebbles just outside the shop and by a swimming pool in Bulgaria, but that was all on his own. All children are very receptive, so give them a chance. If they bring rocks home, just let them keep that. Most mothers will throw it out. Don't do that. I hope to see you in the field, in the conference or in the field sometime. And I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, AIGS, for inviting me, and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. That's a terrific presentation.